Welcome back to the live stream here for theCUBE. I'm John Furrier, your host for Boomi World 2026. Closing down day 2 of 2 days of wall-to-wall coverage. We're covering the transformation as AI comes in to the enterprise and all applications, all domains. You're starting to see visibility into the unit economics and the platform. Of course, Boomi's leading the way. The control plane, the agentic layer. We've got Dan McAllister back, SVP of Global Alliance. John, great to see you. You're like a co-host on theCUBE.
Thank you, yeah, I know. This is our several times today, so it's been awesome.
Yeah, and we got Accenture here, always having great users. Sven Loberg, Managing Director at Accenture. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, yeah.
Love Accenture. You guys are working with some of the biggest companies and also the most progressive on the frontier. So I want to get into the main theme of the show here. Steve Lucas said on the main stage on day 1, hey, you know, the rules, ERP, CRMs, they all have the data. They're not going to go away, but that's kind of a back office. So you're starting to see the connection piece kick in, obviously the connectivity, the context and the control, that's the theme, and people are deploying faster. So where are the customers at right now? How would you peg the progress? Certainly there's the energy's there, the strategy, infuse AI in all domains, but the execution is top of mind for everyone now.
That's right, yeah. So I think we've seen a lot of experimentation, right? And now you've also seen kind of AI from an SDLC perspective, and this next kind of inflection, to your point, right now it's going to come into the fore as far as with now in the execution architecture, you're going to see this inversion of some of the traditional platforms, which to your point, that was where the data and really the cores, the digital cores of all these different enterprises reside. And they're not going away, but as far as how we now integrate them is going to be different, where before it was very much kind of a very intentional kind of think of how we would integrate enterprises, and now with AI, that's changing with agents. And so I think we've been talking about it like this inflection point of how now agentic is going to change the way that we do integration, and certainly we're seeing that in the product space with certain like Boomi and how they're approaching it, which was, if you thought about them a decade ago, it was very much kind of traditional integration, iPaaS, and now it's become an agentic world and how they're thinking about using agentic. So then, to your point, our customers and citizen developers can start to use and become super users as far as building their own systems. Now, once we solve kind of how we get integration to be something they can use without kind of large programs to get access to those data as far as in the underlying digital platforms.
It's interesting, the control piece of it is key, and if you look at Boomi Connect, Dan, that speaks to this kind of like integration always on. It's not like, hey, integrate these things. I did a deal, we integrate this part of this database. The integration is like a feature now. It's not just middleware.
Exactly right, and so as Sven said, and as Sven said, and you had mentioned, is that people are experimenting, right? They're out there on the forefront of AI, and the reason why they're being held back is not all of the data is available to them. And so with Boomi Connect, it's amazing that you can take all these powerful models, connect it to all of the data on the back end, and that's been the missing link, right? Literally that link, and it's not just all of the data is in all the systems, but it's some of the data is in some of the systems, and the rest of it is somewhere else, or it's being created, or it's been distributed elsewhere. But then those business rules as well is also locked in different systems, right? And it's really the combination effect of all of those things is what's going to unleash the power of AI for all of us.
And talk about the partnership, because we're seeing terminology from computer science from the 80s kind of coming into the world. I've heard the word spine and leaf, which is talked about in the data center if you talk about a rack.
Sure.
As a backbone, like the spine of our organization. You're starting to see these metaphors that speak to the horizontal scalability of the data estate, but yet the domain piece was a big theme here. So when you peel all that back, which I think is very relevant for Boomi, and every keynote, if you look at the past 3-4 months, it's separate the models, build that platform, but the difference is the data. What are some of the things around that spine or backbone that gives the enterprise that benefit, and where does Boomi fit? So we'll start with you first, because Accenture, you're on the front lines here. How are they thinking about this, and then how does Boomi accelerate that?
So now that you've got things like the data spine and these metaphors that are spawning, it's really now as you think about kind of the democratization of data and how you can leverage agents, and to that point, like everyone's building their next agentic foundation. What is that going to look like, that platform for the enterprise? And very rapid as far as what's going on with the models and LLMs, the interoperability, that certainly will be kind of key as far as, well, there will no longer be just one platform, whether it be a digital core or something like that. You'll now need to have that ability to think about there may be 3 or 4 different models, and we may now need to pick what model makes the most sense, and having a platform that has that intelligence to help that citizen developer, they're not going to know that. So how you abstract that from them. So that'll certainly be kind of critical of how they think about that, getting access to data. Now doing something interesting, which I think is the kind of collaboration between Boomi and Accenture, now bringing our industry expertise, because that's going to require then industrial knowledge of what these industry kind of business processes look like, and then how should they look like now in an agentic world versus what it was in the past.
And on that vertical piece, and I've followed Accenture, you guys have been on theCUBE many times, it's always been vertical. You guys have always been playing with it. Has that changed how you guys engage? Because you can be vertically specialized, but you still got cross-company. So how is that looking on how people are thinking about the business side of it? Because now revenue's involved.
Now revenue's involved, and things are moving quicker. So as far as, and being able to go think about, okay, what is whether it be an existing capability or the new one, how quickly can we go transform that as far as not just automate it, like that was certainly a theme of the past of let's automate this process, but now let's think about it differently from an agentic perspective, which creates a whole new set of revenue streams, and it can impact, an enterprise of where they were successful, weren't successful in the past, to leapfrog their competitors. So it's certainly a pretty compelling space.
Yeah.
It's interesting, the word edge, I love the edge. Everyone knows, I've been talking about the edge of the network, but to have a competitive edge,
sure,
to be on the edge of the technology, you're starting to see a formula. The data and the agents are interacting, okay? You got that spine, you got that backbone, the enterprise, all integrated in. The governance is driving that relationship. I've heard the kill switch here on theCUBE this week, which is simply, agents going rogue, boom, killed. Take him out of production. Put him on the penalty box.
That's right.
I mean, this is kind of real-time stuff.
Yeah, it is coming to life before our eyes, right? And so it's amazing, the promise of AI has been around for 3 years, and we've all kind of got our head around really quickly, but we didn't have the infrastructure in place to do it. So the spine, these other analogies, are now finally becoming available, and I think this and next year, we're going to see rapid adoption at scale with great ROIs for our customers. Things that they always wanted to do are now able to do. And when we think about the partnership, when I think about the partnership, we've put so much focus on building that enabling technology, but the industry, the line of business, the functional knowledge, and the ability to create bespoke solutions based on what unique customers want. I don't know anybody better than Accenture at doing that. Just the size and scale and breadth that they can bring to the equation is just phenomenal. So we're super excited about expanding our partnership and continuing on this path together.
Talk about the competitive edge, because you guys do a lot of big projects. I mean, IT projects, we've seen that movie. Now with the C-suite engaging, they're also hitting a little shadow AI too. They're seeing they're feeling it. They understand it more now than they did before. Before, here's the budget. Now it's company-wide. How are companies thinking about the competitive edge for their business when they look at these projects that are moving faster, deploying faster, changing the scope of their business, how they work, how fast they move to the value?
Yeah, so to that point, what was shadow IT is now changing. Now, certainly, that doesn't mean you need to have guardrails and governance. That becomes even more critical because you can now develop these things faster than ever. But that ability to speed the market is never been faster. And so, whether it be governance, thinking about things like full stack FinOps, how they're going to go imagine their agentic spend, as far as certainly lots of that in the news. I think certainly the ability to host some of this, in a kind of multi hosting strategy, edge you mentioned in the other respect, whether it be public cloud or on-prem, I think we're going to certainly see a lot of sovereign come into play as far as people kind of reining that expense, and they want to be able to develop, but also in a cost-effective way that truly kind of generates value and outcomes that they're getting an ROI from.
What's the biggest change if you had to talk to an executive or a deep tech leader? What's changed the most in the market right now from, say, last year?
I think that the technology at the hands, the fingers of now, not just our deep technical engineers, but be able to put that now in our deep industry experts as well. So lots of talk around forward engineering, what we can do there. I mean, I think that's now opening up as far as the ability we talked about, whether it be our clients or whether it be our industry kind of experts. Now they have that ability to go, impact a customer. They need to access to the data and all those kind of plumbing things as well. But now they can go create, new capabilities overnight with relatively small teams. In some cases, individuals with a team of agents. But they need that platform again to have governance and being able to do that in a way that that ultimately is effective.
You know, it's interesting when you're saying, it makes me think about this transformation, the data we've been reporting and covering. It used to be, we would bend to the technology, now the technology has to bend to the business.
That's right.
And so a lot's changing, even the makeup of how reporting structures are, you've got agents changing, the workforce, you're seeing, in Silicon Valley, they call it the AGI effect, but I mean, putting AGI aside, you're injecting intelligence.
Yeah.
What are you guys seeing as the most compelling starting point and evolution of the changing roles and organizations? And how is that conversation going in a lot of the enterprise?
Yeah, so I think there's an upskilling talent kind of at, like everything like this, as far as with this ability, and I think there's also, not just an ability, but an expectation that everyone now within the enterprise has this ability to do more, but there's a new skill set that many maybe didn't have, so talent, change management's never been more important as far as to be able to say, hey, let's do this in a very kind of scaled way, but in a very disciplined way that we can move quickly, but we make sure we can do it in a way that ultimately, whether it be cost effective and whether it's also driving the outcome. So there's a big talent and kind of change management aspect of this that's never been more important when we think about kind of inflection points in the industry. This is certainly a seismic one.
Yeah. I think it's really, and you go back to that question you asked about like what's changed and then what's really going to help us get there. It's the productivity of the individual in the area of their expertise. If you think about a product like Boomi Companion, which we've just launched, that now takes certainly somebody who's never really written much integration code on their own myself, and I could probably do a decent job, but put that in hands of a developer who's actually been doing this for 10 years, they're going to be like Superman out there, right? They're going to be running at light speed to really drive innovation at the edge. I'm hoping to get all of the forward deployed engineers at Accenture enabled with this product so that they have the 1,000 years of integration experience that we have built in Boomi in their back pocket, right? So they can take that to the edge. So could I do something I couldn't do before? Sure, but could somebody who's done that really well already do that at amazing potential? Absolutely, and that's really where we're going to get the change.
We've been using car analogies here because Steve made a reference, and I wrote a post about the technology is the car and people are the driver. And to your point, to be a really good engineer or business AI builder, that's like an F1 driver.
That's right.
And so we had a little joke, Drive to Survive, the big Netflix series. Enterprises in a way have a similar moment. They have to drive the business and they got to drive to survive. So, not that we're going to do a Netflix series on this, but like there's a frontier element of these new leaders. And change management, we've seen the people, process, technology, we've heard that before, but the people piece, the culture, is a huge deal. What's new there? What are you seeing in culture, the new drivers of the business? What are some of the high-level athletes or drivers look like?
Yeah, I mean, now an individual can do more than they ever could. Then comes with an expectation of there's things now that we wouldn't have done before, but now they're like, well, now we can. And so that becomes a bit of the, also the challenge, which is now there's an expectation, whether it be in the market, within a company, the department, that you can do a lot more. And so that comes with how do you kind of balance that talent, building the talent, not burning your employees out, getting them to kind of make that kind of evolutionary change. And so, I mean, talent, like you said, is never been more important. So I think, this is where the market, there's not going to be enough yet talent that can do this. And so the ones that can make that pivot are going to be the ones that are going to be the future,
And my learnings here at the show is data, the business logic, and real time.
That's right.
That feeds the AI builder, the new persona.
That's
engineer, developer, or business person, line of business, whoever.
That's right. Still have to be good at your core function and your core competency, and these tools will allow you to do that much better than you're ever able to do before, but that doesn't mean everybody's equal, right? You're still going to have people that can go much faster. You put me in a Formula One car, I'll drive faster than I do my current car, but it's still not going to be as good as a professional driver, nowhere near it, even though we're in the same car.
I play the driving game, turn the clutch off, can barely hold on to the wheel. I'm spinning up. Guys, thanks for coming on and wrapping up the show. I guess my final question, what's going to change in the relationship? What do you guys expect to do this year? What's the focus?
Yeah, well, I think it's bringing to life all of this promise. We were talking a little bit before the show about what's next and how long that will take and that window of time. we're going to see massive adoption in the next 12 months, right? We've been all, moving up to this point, getting closer to the edge about taking those initial risks. We've probably been held back a little bit because we didn't trust the outcome, right? We weren't really sure when we hand the keys over this machine to a machine, right, to somebody else to make decisions for us, what was going to happen. And we're really solving those problems and getting to a point where we can trust outcomes on a predictable basis. Some we won't, but many we will. Yeah. And we're going to see adoption in use cases by industry and by line of business, and we're hopeful that it's us two that are bringing it to you.
All right, give the final word for the show.
Thanks for having us. Certainly, yes, I think the experimentation, we're pivoting to now establishing the foundation. Scale is next. And so exciting as we bring kind of the technology and industry together to do really compelling things.
That North Star is now achievable. Production workloads at scale, real time. Guys, thanks so much for closing out the show. I'm John Furrier with theCUBE. That's a wrap here in Chicago for Boomi World 2026. Thanks for watching.